The chemical change will affect all aquariums, even the sophisticated ones at the Oklahoma City Zoo, because now there'll be ammonia in the water, and ammonia and fish don't mix. Their delicate systems just can't filter the chemical, so the aquarium owner has to.
Store whatever water you need in a large container with an air stone in it. Add sodium thiosulfate to break the chloramine complex apart, and then you can use a activated carbon and zeolite filter to pull out the ammonia and the chlorine after that. Either that or just let it dissipate for like 3 days, 4 days.
The chemical change is part of a pilot program designed to improve the standards of our water. So for the time being, only the northwest side will be adding the ammonia. If you're wondering how safe the chemical is for humans, relax. It appears our bodies won't be affected by this weekend's change. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
Simply selling materials that they knew would be destroyed so they could sell most of our fleet, most of the Air Force in the Pacific. Worry about taxes or about the president or about the governor. You can help us keep our freedom. Have embarked on a...
State chairman is Paul Branson. Service unit color guard.
Is that we may have 1 month without a cutback, and then the cutbacks are going to get progressively, and then we start getting the income tax money in. So, okay. Stock market is not good at predicting downturns. It isn't an answer for this year. You know, what we have to do is try to make it through this year as best we can by agencies cutting back, by agencies instituting cost-saving measures, maybe being slow to fill personnel positions because that's a big cost in every agency. We need to make it through this year, and we need to adjust Oklahoma State government to the very changed situation that we're now living in.
At about 9:15 this morning, Oklahoma County Commissioner Ralph Adair showed up at the federal courthouse to face arraignment on a 19-count indictment. Adair is charged with 10 counts of mail fraud, 4 counts each of extortion and false income tax returns, and 1 count of perjury. If Adair is convicted, he could face up to 147 years in prison and an $80,000 fine. But the commissioner's attorney, Andy Coates, says he doesn't believe the government has a strong case.
Well, I don't suppose anybody's encouraged when they're under federal indictment, but certainly obviously if it had been one of the stronger cases, it had been filed very quickly in the proceedings, as many of them were. So obviously they've had some difficulties in bringing the case to indictment, and hopefully we can exploit those as we go forward to prepare Mr. Adair's defense.
The federal magistrate set bond for Adair at $5,000. Adair has been a county commissioner for nearly 30 years. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 at the federal courthouse.
One of the main problems that Indian people and Indian education face is that Indian education is not a priority within the Bureau, within Title IV, or within the Reagan administration.
At Concho, these people care very much. They get, it's been said, clean beds, good food, people that care, people that they know they care for them. And I would hate to see the facility closed. It's desperately needed that these children know that they are wanted and that they are cared for.
How can the government and the secretary justify the closing of Concho School when our government continually increases budgets for prison construction, law enforcement, and sophisticated felon apprehension programs? Not to say anything about the high escalated and continual escalating budget of the Department of the Defense.
The Phillips Collection is drawing record crowds at the Oklahoma Art Center. Renoir's Luncheon of the Boating Party is just one of the world-famous pieces of art on display. Unlike many of the museums in the East, our art museum is financially well because of the collection and because of what appears to be an increased interest in art across Oklahoma.
Oklahoma is becoming of age. A great many people have moved to Oklahoma because of the economic conditions, and they're bringing with them their cultures from back east, from up north. We have a large number of tours. We have tours through the Art Center almost every 15 minutes for the next 2 weeks. Both day and evening, and weekends. So we have just about as many people going through this exhibition as is possible.
Museum officials are optimistic about the future. Even during the current recession, record crowds pour through, so it only follows the crowds will increase as the economy stabilizes. The story's the same with the Oklahoma Symphony. Ticket sales are surprisingly up, 17% over last year. Many shows have been selling out, and the symphony is financially sound. Oklahoma may not be recession-proof, but the arts here certainly seem to be. Dan Slocum, Action 4.
No, of course, we just received the figures on the allotment for December. we have dual problems, but the only salvation we've had is the fact that we've had authorized a number of positions that we have not filled, and we've been able to basically remain within their income by simply leaving approximately 800 to 1,000 positions which were authorized unfilled.
Investigators still haven't been able to piece together a sequence of events in the shooting last Thursday morning, but police believe Officer Kevin Simmons was shot during an altercation with two men he had stopped, presumably on a routine traffic citation. One suspect was also hurt during the struggle. He was taken into custody. Police say he is recovering. Investigators traced the second suspect, 24-year-old Tolly Earl Melvin, to Chickasha, Oklahoma. This morning, he was arrested.
The arrest was made at a residence at 1320 South Shepherd without incident. Chickasha Police Chief J.R. McLean and Captain Danny Sterling headed the police contingency that made the arrest. The suspect was then transported to their offices, and Oklahoma County Sheriff J.D. Sharp was notified that the arrest had been made.
Both men have been charged with first-degree murder in the shooting. Investigators say they expect arraignment for the pair tomorrow. Also tomorrow, law enforcement officers will mourn the man with whose death the pair in custody is charged. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
I must admit, it gave me a little deeper respect for law enforcement. Being a pastor in Spencer for now 21 years,
Now, the police may shoot at a fleeing suspected felon. This does not protect innocent people, and it allows the police too much leeway into making a decision whether to use his deadly force. The position of the ACLU is that to safeguard all the people in the state of Oklahoma and not harm the efforts of the police to bring good law enforcement, the state law should be changed to require that bodily injury is imminent before the police can use deadly force.
If a person, for example, says I'm from Mexico or my mom and dad were from Mexico, but I'm a permanent resident, and he won't get a job, the employer will automatically say, well, you're an illegal alien, I'm not going to hire you. And others say that this will result in a national identification system, which America never has required even its U.S. citizens to carry identification to prove who they are. But there are those who say if this law comes to pass, even the U.S. citizen is going to have to carry some kind of documentation to show the employer that he's got a right to work.
I recognized the sign they had on the door the first time I met the sisters, and it said, if you're looking for a friend, I'd like to apply. And I believe that's so.
The line forms here. for friendship, clothes, but most importantly for these hungry people, food. At the Jesus House, the only requirement to eat is hunger, and the only requirement for help is a need. 300 people a night walk through the doors here for Sister Ruth's Depression Dinner. The meal is high in starch and low in meat, but it's food, and that's all that counts. Unlike many agencies, the Jesus House is not funded with state monies. The two ladies who run this place say God sends the money, or at least moves people to send the money. A lot of mouths have been fed here over the last 10 years. They've never missed a meal. But that's not to say there haven't been problems.
It's like a typical family. You have days when you just want to pack your suitcase and leave, but you can't, you know, because of the needs and the next person coming along. You see somebody that's doing really good, and you see it's worth it all.
The people who come to the Jesus House all have several things in common. They have no other place to go, they're hungry, and most need a friend. Well, they found friendship with the people who've given their time to work here.
Thank you, Jesus, for all this food. It's making me hungry.
And there's friendship with Sister Ruth, the originator of the Jesus House.
God has a plan for everybody's life, and when you find that place, then you're content and to be in that place. And that's it.
Sisters Ruth and Betty are both very talented artists, and both admit they could have made a good living somewhere else. But feeding people is more important to them. They say these people who might otherwise be considered bums are their closest friends. There's no such thing as a bum at the Jesus House, you see. Just hungry people. Dan Slocum, Action 4.
$25, opening bid. $25 anywhere. What do you get 25? Who'd give $10 for it? Yes! I have 10. We'll get 15.
It was a bargain and a souvenir today in the Made in Oklahoma building at the fairgrounds. The FDIC was holding another auction of Penn Square Bank's furniture. The bargains were there, along with something else. A chance at a piece of history.
This is the bar that they poured their drinks for all those guys when they came in here from Sea First up in Seattle. This is the one right here.
I thought there would be some mementos, and it seems like there are quite a few art objects, but there's also some quality furniture. They bought nothing but the best.
The furniture was being purchased at a tenth of its original cost. Pit groups going for $500 and chairs marked down $200. All the proceeds go to the FDIC to help cover the cost of insuring the bank. But the audience wasn't there to help a federal agency. They were there to pick up a bargain and to take home a conversation piece. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
I can explain, you know, I just want to work for these people.
We haven't tried to extinguish it at all because we don't have enough equipment or chemicals to put it out, so we're just going to let it burn until it does burn. The pipeline is shut off at this time, and we'll just let the part that's running out on the ground burn off.
There were about 130 homes that had to be vacated in order to make way for the proposed Central Expressway. Now the only problem is demolishing empty buildings. Area residents say the structures are unsightly, a fire hazard, and a danger for children seen playing inside old apartments. State Transportation Department officials say empty buildings are being removed. However, it may take until March because of bureaucratic red tape. In the meantime, the department says they can't make the structures look any better, but it will try to keep the area as safe as possible.
We've had some cooperation with the Oklahoma City Police Department and the Fire Department to maintain a closer watch in the area because of the high chance of fires and that sort of thing with vagrants. As we see dangerous areas, you know, if a wall collapses of a structure that was being torn down or whatever, we attempt to get the department forces out there to go in and remedy the situation until our contractor can get in and clean it up.
So far, about $14 million has been spent just clearing the land for the Central Expressway, and it will take $5 million more to finish the job. Officials had hoped to auction off reusable materials from the condemned buildings, but that turned out to be more trouble than it was worth. Most of those living near the expressway's path say they prefer to see the buildings torn down because it's quicker. And for area residents, the sooner the structures are demolished, the better. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Northeast Oklahoma City.
The first step of the court-ordered AT&T and Bell telephone split begins on January 1st with a one-year program to phase out the equipment end of the operation. Phone stores like this one will continue to serve the public, operated by new companies selling off or rotating the current Bell merchandise. The difference to the customer will be minimal for the first year. They can still purchase or rent phones here, but new or moving customers will have to deal with Bell Telephone directly for service hookups. In the past, that step was also taken care of at these centers. At the end of the year, Southwestern Bell will have to make a decision.
We will be phasing out equipment throughout the year, and we will have to make a decision at that time as to whether we, as a regulated company, Southwestern Bell, even want to be in the equipment business, since there are so many other vendors selling equipment at this time.
It is the other vendors that led to the changes in the first place. AT&T operated a virtual monopoly until about a decade ago and were regulated by the FCC. Other unregulated companies began providing the services that made money, like equipment and long-distance calling, without having to subsidize local phone service. The breakup and eventual partial deregulation could help customers in some ways. Regional phone services would still be regulated on the state level, but providing equipment and long-distance calling would be regulated only by competition. Since that step won't begin until January of '84, no one is sure exactly yet what the effects will be. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
Despite increased competition among the nation's major air carriers, air travel is still not cheap. In fact, many would-be travelers are staying home this holiday season because of the expense. Usually it is next to impossible to get plane reservations at this late date. But today, many flights leaving Will Rogers World Airport were not full. Many travelers on their way to be with family and friends confirmed they had no trouble getting reservations.
No trouble getting reservations. Got them from a travel agent in Ada. And we're going out to see my daughter and 2 grandchildren.
No, I didn't have any trouble making reservations with the airlines. I'm going to Hackensack, New Jersey. And it's been pretty splendid, you know, trying to get out of here.
No problem with the airlines, but travel agent has canceled my flight unbeknownst to me, and I'm trying to get out of here on the 24th of December to go spend Christmas with my family, and I better get out of this airport.
The story was similar at the bus station today. Officials with several of the major bus lines confirmed that passage to many of the nation's major cities are still available. Despite the economy, people will always go home for Christmas, whether it be by plane or bus. Families from all over the country will be together tonight. But plane and bus tickets don't come cheap, and for many travelers, their only Christmas present will be a day with their family. At the bus depot, Kurt Autry, Action 4.
We have enough red cells and whole blood on hand, but platelets are our need. Platelets are what stop acute bleeding. And if we have somebody who's in a major accident and loses a lot of blood, one of the blood components that they need are platelets. And we can only keep them for a maximum of 5 days.
Security can be found in many forms, but one of the more popular forms comes on 4 legs and is very effective. The guard dog is fast becoming the #1 method for home security. Animals cost anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000. It takes 20 hours a week for 8 weeks to train a good guard dog. A lot of the instruction is just showing the dogs how to bite their victims. As crime increases, more dogs are being used in homes and businesses to greet would-be burglars. The demand is so great it's creating a shortage, because not all dogs can be trained for security and protection.
There's more people wanting them, it's just that I can't find the trainable ones. They're hard to find. You could look at 20 shepherds and maybe buy one. You come home after work and you find your house ransacked and all your appliances gone and jewelry and guns. So people get tired of it and they finally end up buying a dog, you know, because that's the only thing that really can watch your house while you're gone.
Birnbaum spends much of his time trying to re-educate potential dog owners. He says many people still believe wives' tales about dogs, like feeding a dog gunpowder to make it meaner, when in fact it destroys the animal's brain. Birnbaum adds you don't have to be an expert about dogs to know when they bite, it hurts for a long time. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Del City.
Displayed quite a bit of interest here is that the ruling in Florida could potentially affect us in that our system may be found to be unconstitutional and we may be forced to provide counsel at state expense for inmates. So to head off the precedent being set in a circuit court or in the U.S. Supreme Court, we have entered the case to put forth what our views are on the system and why we believe it is a constitutional system that we have set up.
The first shift workers at the local GM plant spent 1982 in a revolving door. They were on for a while, then they were off for a while. That's better than the second shift. They never got called back. In short, it was a downer year. But the plant has switched over to 2 different body style cars, the A and the X. Plant officials think the worst is over.
All the indicators that we've seen in the last couple months have been basically very positive, and I think that overall I think things are going to be much better in 1983. It may take a little while, but I would be, if I were one of our employees, I'd feel much better coming back to work after Christmas, certainly than I did last year.
Car dealers have also been caught in a revolving door. The first quarter of 1982 was okay, but sales were simply awful during the summer. In the last quarter, they picked back up. One major reason was a special interest rate of 10.9%. Salesmen see the momentum of the last quarter carrying over into 1983.
Well, they've got an 11.9. They'll start January 1, run until April 1st, and then they've just better. The cars are building now are better than what they were, and they're just going to have some more incentives.
So it appears everything may be in line for a rush of customers to the showrooms. One thing could probably ensure big sales in 1983, a strong economic recovery across Oklahoma and the nation. Bill Ross, Action 4 in Edmond.
Yes, they can go to a Four Seasons. I think they need to understand that they need to know whether they are going to continue to qualify for the skilled services or not. That is, I think, step number one. I think that their best choice probably right at this moment would be to contact Norman Facility.
Real fine blood pressure.